Hello, folks. I'm David Faber, and I'm here to talk to you today about something very important. This is not about a council meeting. This is something that is very important and close to my heart. So I got some notes here I'm going to read to you. Some of you folks on city council or some of my closer friends, you might have seen this already. I know some of you chimed in and you agree that this is a very important issue. Okay? I'm David Faber. Okay. So, grammar lesson time. David and I versus David and me. Now, I know some of you follow me on Facebook. You've seen this and you know how serious it is. I see so many people using David and I when they should be using David and me. It's really hard for me, and I know many of you on the city council have spoke up as well on just how hurtful it is and how annoying it is when people use improper grammar. It feels like we went back to the cave. It feels like these Neanderthals are just like, willy-nilly in their language. I mean, you hear some of the way that Reverend Crystal Cox talks. She's like, I don't think she went to school a day in her life, and if she did, she didn't learn nothing. But anyway, we're not talking about her today or yet. Okay. I see so many people using David and I when they should be using David and me, to the point that it's worth making a post clarifying when the former is grammatically appropriate versus when one should really be using the latter. This is serious, and I really need you to understand this. Again, I'm not going to bring it up at a council meeting, and I don't need my gavel, but it's important to me, and I really, really want you to listen. Okay, one uses David and I when the first person individual pronoun, I, is the subject of the sentence, whereas name and me, so you insert the name, and me, is correct when the first person individual pronoun, me, is the object of the sentence. So, you understand so far? Is there any questions so far? All right, let me continue. Okay. To explain what this means, it's helpful to think about in terms of active language, or when you are doing something, versus passive language, or when something is being done to you. David and I are going to the grocery store. Okay, so if you go, David and I are going to the grocery store by getting a ride from Alan, versus Alan is driving David and me to the grocery store. The former is active language, whereas the latter is passive language. And so, here at City Council, we strive to be grammar police. And I know we don't put it on the official agenda, but we're all like, ugh. If you want to get on our good side, do not use improper grammar. Okay, just a tip. And if you're not on our good side, we're not going to fund any of your projects, okay? Yeah. Okay. So again, let me read that again. David and I are going to the grocery store by getting a ride from Alan, versus Alan is driving David and me to the grocery store. The former is active language, whereas the latter is passive. Okay. Another extremely helpful way to check your usage is to drop the other person's name and consider whether the sentence still makes grammatical sense. Example, David and I. So you go David and I, or you go I am going to the grocery store, versus David and me is going to the grocery store. Shows that David and I are going to the grocery store is clearly the correct option. It's clearly correct, okay? You really need to get your grammar right, okay? It's not that this is just a pet peeve of mine, but you sound like a bloomin' idiot, right? You sound like you didn't even go to kindergarten, okay? Everybody on the city council agrees with me. I see y'all in the comments. Their deputy mayor, she even put David, #David PSA. This is a very important public service announcement, okay? I know we don't have the official title here at City Council being grammar police, but we are. And we don't respect you at all if you use improper grammar. So this is kind of like a lesson of a heads up. Okay. So David and I am going to the grocery store versus David and me is going to the grocery store shows that David and I are going to the grocery store. Is clearly the correct option. Conversely, Alan is driving I to the grocery store. unquote, is clearly incorrect. Clearly that's incorrect, right? English, so one would use, incorrect. English, incorrect. So one would use, Alan is driving David and me to the grocery store. Okay? Language rules should not be hard and fast, allegedly. I believe that the principal purpose of language is to communicate. And if your meaning is clear, then you are communicating appropriately, irrespective of whether you are breaking a rule. Whose rule? Well, my rule. Okay, it's in all the grammar books. You cannot use improper grammar. It is the rule, okay? So, I understand what you mean, but you really, if you want to sound like you got anything going on upstairs, you have to use the proper grammar. Okay, so whether you're breaking the rule, okay. So that said, I also find using the word form of David and I versus David and me aesthetically grating. Oh, just grating. Okay, Deputy Mayor says Faber, hashtag Faber PST. Okay, so now Councilwoman Libby Winstrom, and I just think that's great. She weighed in, and she just really doesn't like. She goes at her kids all the time about the correct grammar so much. She says I tortured both my children correcting them on this so much that Isaac now does it wrong only to me just to mess with me. Okay, so it's very, very important, and y'all need to understand that in your day-to-day life. Okay, especially if you're dealing with us as city council, because we pride ourselves on the correct grammar, and we're smart. You're obviously not. So is there any questions? Yes, you, Roger. Right. Okay. Okay, so Roger says that Roger identifies as they. So Roger's asking, how would this apply when I identify as they? Okay, so I'm David Faber. I identify as they. So I go, okay, they and I are going to this store is proper. They and me going to the store makes you sound like a jidget. I mean, it's improper, it's incorrect, and it's grating. So the proper way is to say they and I. Okay, so I identify as they. Okay, so I say they and I are going to the store. Alan is taking they and I to the store. Okay, that's the proper way. You wouldn't be so, you wouldn't want to grate me and be so improper as to go, Alan is giving they and me a ride to the store. Alan is taking they and me to the store. That's just grating, and it's just disrespectful. For example, if you're calling a restaurant and you're like, they and I would like a reservation for 4:00. Okay, says the restaurant. So I should set a place for 3 or more. I mean, how many are there? I told you they and I are making a reservation. Obviously, that's only 2 of us. Okay, so then the restaurant's like, well, they implies more than 1, and I implies 1, so I have to assume there's at least 3 of you. Improper. Now, how would it have been if I'd have called and said, they and me would like a reservation? Okay, well, so how many of you are there? Okay, what I meant was they and I. Oh, I understand. So the restaurant would automatically understand there's 2 of you. Okay? Or if you're telling the police, the police are like, well, what did you see? Oh my gosh. Well, they and me, we saw the robber come out, and he had his mask on, and then he had a yellow hat, and he had a tattoo of a butterfly. And the cop's like, okay, so how many of you was there? There's they and me. Okay, so there's several of you. Okay. That's improper and grating. So if the police asks you, what did you witness? You go, they and I saw a masked man come out. He had a tattoo of a blue butterfly in his hand. And then the officer will understand because it's proper grammar. Okay, so you tell the officer, they and I saw them coming out. Well, so you and who? They and I. Well, so you and a whole bunch of other people? No. Roger identifies as they. I identify as David Faber. So they and I saw it. Okay, well, they implies there's more than one person. You got other witnesses? Grading. Okay, so the moral to the story here is that just don't be like that, okay? Don't say they and me. Don't say David and me went to the store with Alan. They and me walked down to the river, because, yeah, people will understand what you say, but it's grating. And me and Councilwoman Libby Winstrom, me and Deputy Mayor Amy Howard, we don't like it, and we're not going to respect you. You can see that Libby Winstrom's children respect her, and then so much that now they just kind of tease her with bad grammar. Because to Libby Winstrom, it's really a bad thing, and you're a very bad person if you use improper grammar, okay? Now, in today's age, it can be challenging for you because a lot of people identify as they and them, as Roger's very good question there. They had a very good question. So, in order to be grammatically correct, it's challenging these days, but you could just strive harder. What? Right, okay. So, Roger's saying that when they take classes, sometimes people say that when they go, they and I went to the store, then the teacher will say, well, that's improper grammar. But I'm here to tell you that we're in a new world, okay? And we're the grammar police here at City Council. Now, a singular person can identify as a they or a them. Now, what? Okay, so the question is, how will we know if they or them is more than one person? Well, it's obvious. Like Roger's there going, Roger identifies as they. That's clearly one person. The people that don't understand that they and them is one person, grating. Anyway, so refer back to this video often if you want to be able to communicate with people like me who are educated and people like Libby Winstrom who are educated, because improper grammar is grating. However, when a singular person identifies as an they or them, it don't grade me anymore. I like it. So you need to understand this, okay? So that's why I wanted to do this hashtag Faber PSA. We'll talk real soon. I'm David Faber.